This means something. This is important. Close Encounters of the Third Kind wasn't just Steven Spielberg's follow-up to Jaws. It was a $20 million gamble that nearly bankrupted Columbia Pictures, sparked government opposition from NASA, and almost killed a stunt driver in the process. Behind the scenes, A-list actors refused to cry on camera. A 3-year-old earned the nickname One Take Carrie, and Spielberg put an orangutan on roller skates. The production spiraled into chaos with budget overruns, dangerous accidents, and studio executives demanding impossible deadlines. What audiences saw as magical wonder was actually born from creative desperation, practical effects wizardry, and one of the most grueling post-production schedules in Hollywood history. Today, we're revealing 20 weird facts about Close Encounters of the Third Kind that even hardcore fans don't know. But first, let me tell you about the bonus fact that reveals the most shocking behind-the-scenes secret of all. Hit that like button, and let's dive into the unknown. Number 1. Steve McQueen turned down the lead role because he couldn't cry on cue. Steve McQueen was Spielberg's first choice for Roy Neary, but the King of Cool had an unusual limitation. When Spielberg pitched him the script, McQueen loved it, but refused the role because of one scene where Roy cries upon seeing the alien mothership. He said, "I don't do that," recalls Spielberg. McQueen considered crying essential to the character, but couldn't perform it on demand. Ironically, when Spielberg offered to remove the emotional moment, McQueen insisted it stay because it had moved him so deeply when he read it. The role then went to Dustin Hoffman, Al Pacino, Jack Nicholson, Gene Hackman, and James Caan, all of whom also turned it down before Richard Dreyfuss finally convinced Spielberg to cast him. Number 2. NASA sent Spielberg a 20-page letter warning him not to make the film. NASA reportedly sent a 20-page letter to Spielberg, telling him that releasing the film was dangerous. The USAF and NASA both declined to cooperate on the film. But rather than discouraging him, this government opposition actually strengthened Spielberg's resolve. "I really found my faith when I heard that the government was opposed to the film," he said. "If NASA took the time to write me a 20-page letter, then I knew there must be something happening." The official reason was never disclosed, but the timing coincided with the height of UFO investigations and public interest in extraterrestrial phenomena. What exactly did NASA fear about a science fiction movie? Number 3. Columbia Pictures had to use tax shelter money and start filming before New Year's Eve. Columbia Pictures had to pay for the budget for Close Encounters using tax shelter money. This required production to begin before 1976, which meant that at least one scene from the movie had to be filmed before December 31st, 1975. Spielberg decided to start with the air traffic control scene because it didn't require principal actors or major sets. This desperate financial maneuver reveals how cash-strapped Columbia was. They were facing bankruptcy and betting everything on Spielberg's vision. The studio was so broke, they later had to borrow money from EMI and Time Inc. just to complete the film. It wasn't just a movie, it was a last-ditch effort to save a studio. Number 4. A 3-year-old actor became known as One Take Carrie. Carrie Guffey was cast to play young Barry Guiler at the age of just 3 years old, but he turned out to be a pro actor. Spielberg used method acting techniques to get authentic responses out of Guffey, and he nailed so many of his scenes in a single take that he earned the nickname One Take Carrie among the cast and crew. Spielberg even had a t-shirt made for Guffey with his nickname printed on it. To get a shot of Guffey reacting to the aliens first approaching the house, Spielberg was just off camera, slowly unwrapping a present for the young actor to keep him focused and also making him smile. The performance was so remarkable that Stanley Kubrick wanted to cast him as Danny Torrance in The Shining. Number 5. Spielberg put an orangutan on roller skates for the alien scenes. Spielberg wanted the aliens to be non-human beings that glided instead of walked, and he had a weird idea to pull it off: an orangutan dressed in a specially made suit. For a screen test, the production team outfitted an orangutan in gray spandex and strapped it into roller skates. The orangutan immediately took off the skates and crawled to its owner, so a full test couldn't be completed, and the team scrapped the idea. Instead, they cast 50 local 6-year-old girls from Mobile, Alabama, in gray suits and masks. Spielberg chose girls because he felt girls move more gracefully than boys. The failed orangutan experiment remains one of the most bizarre casting attempts in Hollywood history. Number 6. The visual effects budget could have funded another entire movie. Douglas Trumbull was the visual effects supervisor, and he joked that the visual effects budget of $3.3 million could have been used to produce an additional film. This was in 1977 dollars, equivalent to over $15 million today. Trumbull's work helped lead to advances in motion control photography and established techniques still used in modern filmmaking. The massive budget went toward creating revolutionary practical effects, including cloud tanks, miniature motherships, and intricate lighting systems. The mothership was designed by Ralph McQuarrie and built by Greg Gine. The look of the ship was inspired by an oil refinery Spielberg saw at night in India. Every glowing light and swirling cloud was meticulously crafted by hand. Number 7. The aliens were played by little girls in costumes. The kids were really hyperactive, which made them difficult for Steven Spielberg to direct. According to a production diary recorded by Bob Balaban, Spielberg would begin many takes by shouting out, "Girls, stop disco dancing!" The small extraterrestrials in the final scenes were played by 50 local 6-year-old girls in Mobile, Alabama. That decision was requested by Spielberg because girls move more gracefully than boys. The children were heavily backlit to create the iconic alien silhouettes, and their natural energy had to be constantly channeled into otherworldly movements. Choreographing extraterrestrial contact with energetic children proved more challenging than anyone anticipated. Number 8. Richard Dreyfuss lobbied shamelessly for the role by badmouthing other actors. Richard Dreyfuss lobbied to be cast in the film, shamelessly badmouthing his fellow actors to Spielberg for weeks. What first interested Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters was the ideas it explored. The actor overheard Steven Spielberg discussing these ideas on the set of Jaws and made a subconscious note to push for the lead role when the director started casting the movie. While other actors were turning down the role, Dreyfuss was actively campaigning for it. He pestered Spielberg relentlessly, critiquing the acting abilities of his contemporaries and positioning himself as the only actor who truly understood the material. His aggressive lobbying paid off when Spielberg finally gave him the role that would define his career. Number 9. The production bought a house for $35,000 just to destroy it. The Neary's house, which is located at 1613 Carlisle Drive East in Mobile, was actually purchased by the production for $35,000, so they could do whatever they wanted with the interiors. It was later sold for $50,000 after production wrapped, netting a $15,000 surplus that went back into the film's budget. The house needed to withstand the chaos of alien encounters, flying toys, shattering windows, and supernatural lighting effects. Rather than negotiate with homeowners about potential damage, the production simply bought the property outright. This practical approach allowed them to install complex special effects equipment and literally tear the house apart for the alien abduction sequence. The $15,000 profit was a rare bright spot in an otherwise over-budget production. A stunt driver nearly died in a 30-foot car crash during filming. There were a few minor accidents on the film, and one really serious one, a car crash that nearly killed one of the stuntmen. A cop car had to go through a fence and drop 30 feet into a clearing. Craig Baxley did the drive. He drove too fast. His heel was crushed in 40 places because the paramedic and the other guys seemed more concerned with his head. He kept asking if we got the shot and if Steven was pleased. The accident occurred during a police chase sequence involving UFO witnesses. Baxley's dedication to the craft was evident even as he lay injured. His first concern wasn't his shattered bones, but whether the shot was usable. This near-fatal accident highlighted the dangerous lengths the production went to achieve realism. Go ahead and like and subscribe, because these next facts get even wilder, and you won't believe what happened when the government tried to shut down production. Number 11. Francois Trufo was cast as the UFO expert because he wanted to write a book about acting. Spielberg approached French actors like Lino Ventura, Yves Montand, and Jean-Louis Trintignant to play Claude Lacombe, who was based on famous UFO researcher Jacques Vallée, before settling on director and sometimes actor Francois Trufo. The initially skeptical Trufo, who was nervous about appearing in a big-budget Hollywood movie, accepted the role because he wanted to compile research for a book about acting. He never did write the book. This casting choice brought legitimacy to the film's scientific approach, while adding international star power. Trufo's presence signaled that this wasn't just another B-grade sci-fi flick, but a serious artistic endeavor. His authentic portrayal of a dedicated researcher grounded the fantastic elements in scientific methodology. Number 12. The famous five-note musical theme. Was developed a year before filming began, composer John Williams worked with Spielberg to come up with the movie's distinct five-note musical method of communication between humans and aliens, which Spielberg partly based on the solfège system of musical education, a year before shooting began. The synthesizer playing the five notes is an ARP-2500. Vice President of Engineering at ARP Instruments, Philip Dodds, was sent to install the unit on the film set and was subsequently cast as Jean-Claude, the musician who plays the sequence on the huge synthesizer. The musical communication concept became so integral to the story that it influenced every aspect of production, from set design to actor direction. This simple five-note sequence would become one of the most recognizable musical phrases in cinema history. Number 13. They used oxygen masks and everyday objects as UFO models. One of the UFO models was an oxygen mask with lights attached to it, used because of its irregular shape. They experimented with all kinds of ordinary objects that had interesting shapes. The production team scoured hardware stores and medical supply companies looking for items with unusual silhouettes. As a subtle in-joke, Dennis Muren, who had just finished working on Star Wars, put a small R2-D2 model onto the underside of the mothership and a pea-sized TIE fighter to the end of one of the structures extending from the mothership. This guerrilla approach to model making proved that creativity mattered more than budget. The most convincing alien spacecraft in cinema history was partially built from medical equipment and Star Wars toys. Number 14. The cloud effects were created by injecting paint into salt water tanks. Scott Squires was given $20 in petty cash and asked to experiment with liquids in a 20-gallon aquarium. I walked a few blocks to the local grocery store, picked up some milk and whipped cream and paints and all types of other things, just trying to start exploring this. Douglas Trumbull created The cloud effects by injecting white paint into tanks half filled with salt water and half filled with fresh water. The different densities of salt and fresh water created natural layering effects when combined with paint injection. This practical approach produced organic, billowing formations that CGI couldn't replicate for decades. Individual cloud elements were acquired in the cloud tank. Fiber optic lights helped achieve light patterns within the cloud elements. The ethereal beauty of alien arrival was literally grocery store ingredients swirling in fish tanks. Number 15. Colombia was so broke. They needed the film released for Christmas, or they'd go bankrupt. Since Columbia Pictures was buried in debt and facing bankruptcy, it needed the movie to come out in the 1977 holiday season, which forced Spielberg to rush through the post-production. The director would later say that cutting the last 35 minutes of Close Encounters was the most arduous experience of his life. Spielberg said that no film he has ever made since has been as hard to edit as the last 25 minutes of Close Encounters, and that he and Khan went through thousands of feet of film to find the right shots for the end sequence. The studio's financial desperation created impossible deadlines. What should have been a careful artistic process became a race against corporate bankruptcy. The rushed editing explains why Spielberg later released multiple director's cuts. He never had time to finish the film properly. Number 16. Real air traffic controllers were cast to make the dialogue sound authentic. Spielberg wanted the air traffic controllers' dialogue to sound as authentic as possible, so he cast real air traffic controllers. David Anderson, Richard L. Hawkins, Craig Shreve, and Bill Thurman from Los Angeles ARTCC in Palmdale to play them. This attention to professional accuracy extended beyond just casting actors who looked the part. These men brought genuine technical knowledge and authentic jargon to their scenes. Their natural reactions to the supernatural aviation incidents added credibility to the film's most exposition-heavy sequences. Spielberg's commitment to authenticity meant that even minor roles required specialized expertise. This approach would become a hallmark of his directing style. Number 17. The film's title was changed. Late in production from Kingdom Come. During pre-production, the title was changed from Kingdom Come to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Spielberg's initial story outline involved UFOs and shady government dealings following the Watergate scandal, which became a script entitled Watch the Skies. There were numerous rewrites. Taxi driver scribe Paul Schrader even took a crack at it, penning a political UFO thriller titled Kingdom Come that Spielberg and the movie studio rejected. The title is derived from ufologist J. Allen Hynek's classification of Close Encounters with Aliens, in which the third kind denotes human observations of aliens or animate beings. The multiple title changes reflect the script's evolution from political thriller to spiritual science fiction. Each version brought the story closer to Spielberg's vision of wonder rather than conspiracy. Number 18. Spielberg's original vision excluded, showing the inside of the spaceship. When Spielberg set out to make Close Encounters, he made a conscious decision not to show the interior of the spaceship on screen. However, Columbia executives had a difference of opinion and wanted him to show it. 3 years later, the company allowed Spielberg to finish the movie under one condition: that he show the inside of the mothership, which would give the studio's marketing department an angle to sell this new version. The director capitulated, adding new scenes and cutting others to create a special edition. The director was unhappy with the scene, though, and later cut it for the collector's edition. Home video release. Studio interference forced Spielberg to violate his artistic vision for commercial reasons. The interior shots he never wanted to film became a marketing gimmick rather than a creative choice. Number 19. The film was shot in a World War II dirigible hangar in Alabama. The production looked for huge indoor enclosures that would allow for the massive scale of the scene, though they only found ones with center support dividers that spoiled the openness Spielberg wanted for the UFO runway. The only location producers found without center dividers was a 300-foot by 300-foot disused hangar that had been used for dirigibles during World War II at Brooklyn Air Force Base in Mobile, Alabama. This massive space allowed for the full-scale mothership landing without visual obstructions. The hangar's military history added an appropriate atmosphere of government secrecy to the production. To light the mammoth set, they had to bring in all the lights in Hollywood. The logistics of transporting massive lighting equipment to rural Alabama tested the production's resourcefulness. Number 20. Meryl Streep auditioned for the role of Roy's wife. Many actresses, including a then unknown Yale Drama School grad named Meryl Streep, auditioned for the part of Roy's wife, Ronnie. At the time, Streep was completely unknown in Hollywood, having just graduated from drama school. She didn't get the part, which went to Terry Garr instead. This early audition represents a fascinating what-if moment in cinema history. Would Streep's interpretation of the frustrated wife have changed the film's emotional dynamic? Her later career suggests she would have brought complex layers to a role that some critics found underwritten. Sometimes the path not taken reveals as much about a film's legacy as the choices that were made.